Sunday, July 22, 2022, Shinpei is heading home to mourn his stepsister's death, but something feels wrong. He looks over to his right and sees his dead sister next to him. She tells him to stay still as she places her hand on his right eye. She says that it's a present and tells him to take care of her younger sister before she disappears. Shinpei reaches out and calls out her name, Ushio, when suddenly he finds himself in the valley of Plot Mountain. He thinks about what just happened, but realizes he shouldn't dwell too long as it was just a dream. He told Gashima is a small island with a population of 700. Shinpei left the island 2 years ago to study in Tokyo. He came back to attend his stepsister's funeral. He has 2 stepsisters, the younger of which is still alive and healthy. Mio is excited to greet her older brother, maybe a little too excited as she rides straight into the ocean. She's as energetic as ever, but Shinpei knows that she can't be doing well after losing her sister. At the funeral, Shinpei's best friend hugs him from behind while bawling out, telling him that Ushio died while trying to save a kid from drowning. So points out the little girl Ushio saved, who seems completely lifeless in front of them. He tells Shinpei that she or he hasn't spoken a single word since the incident. After Shinpei goes home to have a family dinner with his foster family, when suddenly we see another Mio in her school uniform. Tetsu, a police officer on duty, asks if Mio is okay. She looks at him, smiling as the scene goes black. Later during the night, So hits up Shinpei to tell him more about what happened with Ushio's death. He tells him that there were marks on Ushio's neck, as if someone strangled her. Shinpei is speechless as he thinks of the possibility that Ushio was murdered. He asks why there wasn't an autopsy and So explains that the police knew about the marks on her neck. But given the accounts of the witnesses and the overwhelming evidence of a drowning incident, the police decided to close the case without investigating further. After the call, Mio gives Shinpei the necklace that Ushio was wearing before she died. Thinks back to when he gave it to her and can't believe she's kept it with her for so long. The next day, Shinpei is helping out at his family's restaurant, when Tetsu walks in. He asks for the usual while he checks up on a new mobile game that he's excited to play. Shinpei asks what he meant by the usual, but Mio already knows. Mio asks why he was later than usual today, and Tetsu explains that Shiori and her parents suddenly vanished. Tetsu received a ping about the fishy incident, and decided to go to their residence, where he found that no one was there. Shocked from what she just heard, Mio runs out of the store, and Shinpei chases after her. Shinpei finds her cradled up on a corner, and Mio apologizes for running out. She tells him that before Ushio died, she already said something weird, telling Mio that she saw a girl who looked exactly like herself. Shinpei is confused, but a random stranger interjects, saying that it was probably a shadow. Natsu tells them that it's called the shadow sickness, a disease native to this island, and that every person who has seen their shadow has never lived for long to tell the tale. He adds that once the shadow ends the victim, it pretends to be the victim and takes the lives of everyone the victim loves. Mio shivers in fear. She tells Shinpei that she was with Ushio cleaning the beach 3 days before her death, when they both saw Ushio's shadow. Shinpei shouts, telling Mio to stop messing around, but Mio says she's telling the truth. Shinpei is overwhelmed, but gets himself to calm down. Seeing Mio cry, Nisa mentioned that there was a shrine where people can cleanse themselves of the disease, so they decide to head there to investigate. Shinpei rings the doorbell, but no answer. The door is locked. Shinpei looks at Mio to see her face frozen. He looks towards the direction and the shadowy figure dashes away. They chase after it and end up by a ledge when suddenly they hear a gunshot. They head towards the direction of the sound. When Shinpei finds the lady from the boat sweating profusely and panting while she bleeds out, she grabs him and tells him to listen carefully when suddenly Mio Shadow speaks, telling Shinpei that Dad used to always say that the restaurant isn't closed until you wash the dishes and clean everything up. Darkness fills the air, but without emptiness. Shinpei wakes up to find himself lost again in the valley of Plot Mountain. After another slap on the face, Shinpei has a vague memory of her getting shot, so he asks her if she was ever shot by a handgun before. She asks him if he's feeling okay, but he realizes he's being weird, so he takes back what he asked, thinking that it was just a bad dream. He checks his phone again to see that it is still the 22nd he gets off the boat, and for some reason he feels like he is repeating the events from yesterday. He even recognizes the distinct blue and white panties that Mio was wearing when she fell into the ocean. He follows the rest of the day exactly how it went and what he believes to have been a dream, but he can't help but to feel that the events he experienced were real. His head is spinning, so he goes outside to get some air. When he hears Ted's voice, he sees Mio, wondering why she's outside in her school uniform, when suddenly he witnesses a brutal sight. He realizes that the figure before him is a shadow. He sees a flash, and not long after, a shadow of Tetsu was born. Tetsu's shadow touches the real Tetsu, and after another flash, the body disappears, leaving a black marking on the floor. Shinpei hears Tetsu's shadow go through Tetsu's life history, realizing that the copycat has the memory of its victim, and can even replicate the victim's personality. Shinpei pants heavily, and bad timing for him as his phone goes off. He thinks it's fortunate that his phone was on vibrate. But he was wrong. Darkness fills the air without emptiness, but this time, he sees himself traveling through space and time. He hears a voice similar to Ushio's. He can only make out the words, "Be careful and protect Mio," as he feels a familiar embrace. He's back to the beginning, but he starts at the dark, deja vu again, but he remembers Ushio telling him to protect Mio, so he does just that. Mio knows he can't swim, so she reacts quickly. Other than the weird Japanese, I have fantasies about my stepbrother-stepsister thing. Same events throughout the day until Shinpei makes a prank call to the police department to prevent Tetsu from encountering Neo's shadow. He sets up his phone outside in order to get a recording of Neo's shadow. In the bathroom now, Shinpei collects his courage, determined to figure out as much as possible in the current time loop. He looks in the mirror and for the first time, he sees the change in his right eye. He hears someone showering. He knows that Neo's shadow never entered the house in the previous time loops, so he has absolutely no reason to barge in on the real Neo in the shower, but he barges in anyways, to find the real Mio taking a real shower. Mark this on the books as a SUS anime moment, because we all know this guy just wanted to peek at his little sister. The next day, Shinpei shows Mio a recording of her own shadow, confirming her beliefs that they exist. She tells him that they need to save Shiori before she is also killed by her own shadow, but Shinpei tells her that he'll go alone. The next door neighbor is also curious about Shiori and her family. The door is open. Food is left on the dining table untouched. The TV is still on. Shinpei walks to the living room and sees black markings on the floor. He's confirmed that this is the work of shadows, but he only sees the markings of two adult-like figures. He goes upstairs to investigate more. He realizes now that Shiori was a shadow this whole time. Shiori's shadow makes a shadow of Shinpei, but before she can attack him, the next door neighbor comes up and the shadow disappears, after Shinpei heads back to the family restaurant when the real Tetsu walks in this time. He hands over Ushio's phone. He says that she requested Tetsu to give it to Shinpei if anything were to happen to her, as if she knew that she was going to die. Later, Shinpei tells So about the shadows, who now believes in the possibility that Ushio was strangled by a shadow. The group decided to ask the village chief if he knows anything about the shadows, tomorrow at the summer festival the next day. So's sister tells Shinpei to put on some pants as they barge into his room, telling him to get ready for the festival. Shinpei sees his cute little sister in a kimono. She asks Shinpei what he thinks while she blushes. So butts in and says that she looks great at the festival. So tells Shinpei that he's going to confess his love to Mio tonight. Mio walks in on the boys and asks what they're talking about, so gets flustered and says that they were talking about watermelons and plot armor. Mio's virgin ears are violated and Takiko brings up how she heard that Shinpei walked in on Neo showering, so strangles him for being a dirty boy. While Takiko asks Shinpei how he feels about his cute stepsister, Shinpei says he loves her like family. And Mio is disappointed. Just then, Shinpei looks to the crowd and sees a figure that looks like Ushio. Without a second thought, he chases after her and ends up by the ocean, where he finds her standing in awe of the fireworks. She asks him why he's back at the island. He sees her necklace and realizes that she is a shadow, but she doesn't seem to know and seems to think that she is the real deal. She says her last memory was when she was drowning and remembers asking for one wish to see Shinpei one last time. She tells him that she's happy her wish came true. Shinpei tells himself again that she can't be real. But for some reason, her words are piercing through his heart. She tells him that there's one more thing she wanted to say. But Shinpei refuses to be fooled. He asks her what her goal is playing this game. She doesn't understand the question, but looks at the fireworks and changes the topic, telling him that she wants to go to the festival with him. Shinpei wonders if this shadow actually thinks she is Ushio. Everyone stares at the weird girl in a swimsuit, so Shinpei decides to hide her until he figures out what the hell is going on. He talks with her for 2 hours and he senses nothing suspicious. She even punches like the old Ushio, as Shinpei confirms that at the very least she doesn't have any ill intent, thinking that she could have already ended by now if she wanted to. She seemingly doesn't even know what a shadow is, as he realizes there's some sort of gap in her memory. He gets a call from a worried Neo, so he tells Ushio to stay put. And that he'll be back to pick her up, back with the group. So confesses to Mio, telling her that he loves her. Takiko tells Shinpei that she knows Mio will reject So, saying that Mio has someone else in her heart. Shinpei asks her who, and Takiko gets flustered, telling him to forget what she just said. Suddenly, a not-so-ambiguous Ushio appears in a mask. She cheers So up and everyone immediately knows who that is. She says she's not Ushio and that she is the warrior of love. She obviously doesn't fool anyone, so Ushio apologizes to Shinpei, saying that she just really wanted to see everyone. But Mio won't be fooled. She tells Shinpei to get away from that monster. Suddenly, Shinpei grabs Ushio tightly and tells Mio that he won't let go. He grips even harder, asking Ushio what the hell she's doing, as we find out that he is actually Shinpei's shadow. Ushio's shadow tells everyone to run, but Shinpei's shadow tells them it's already too late. 10 minutes earlier, the real Shinpei was heading towards the group when he saw Mio's shadow at work. She chokes him while she says that she found out about the recording after she already made a shadow copy of him. She throws him and Shinpei panics as he sees all the markings of the latest victims. Shinpei's shadow appears confused with the current memory he has. It updates its memory to the current after touching Shinpei. Realizing that he's been in a time loop, Mio's shadow is about to end him, but Shinpei's shadow stops her, saying that they should keep him alive until the ritual complete, so that he doesn't restart the events again. Shinpei's shadow heads to Shinpei's friends while Mio breaks his arm. She's about to break his leg, when suddenly, the lady from the boat appears to save the day. Izuru knows how to take it down as she shoots point blank at the shadow. Izuru attends to Shinpei's arm, and begins to tell him everything she knows. Shadows feed on humans. They replace them, and have grown massively in numbers in the past few days. Shinpei has a million questions, but interjects when they see a big flash at the top of the shrine, then asks for her help to rescue Neo and his friends, before he runs off ahead. It gets to the top, and is shocked to see a horrific shadowy creature and a mountain of corpses behind it. Shinpei is frozen in fear as he subconsciously counts 11 shadows when suddenly he sees a bloodied So protecting Mio. So shadow goes for Mio next, but Izuru responds, she has one bullet left. The big shadow makes a shadow of Izuru. That and Izuru is able to dodge a fatal blow. The shadow grabs Shinpei and takes a good look at the right eye as it says that it is the long-lost eye's mom. It tells Shinpei that it doesn't know how he got it, but tells him to sit tight and watch as the ritual completes. Shinpei crawls towards Mio, desperate to keep her alive. He reaches out, when suddenly, the final Mio is ready, the shadow says. Please enjoy to your heart's content and grant me the last of your strength, mother. The shadow on the ground expands as it consumes every living soul on the island. Hizuru apologizes to Shinpei as she is ready to throw in the cards, but Shinpei won't give up. He tells her that he's lived a life of regret, but refuses to die with another one under his belt. He says it's not too late and tells her to shoot him. Some pretty crazy stuff. Thanks for making it to the end. Show your support with a like and subscribe. Have a great day.